Oh, yeah, my Instagram handle, Scott Hocking, Detroit. That's because there's a lot of Scott Hockings in Australia.
Really?
And they all took my name.
Jerks.
Like one guy, he just has like one photo, but he has Scott Hocking. So I didn't want to be like Scott Hocking 10.
Yeah.
So I put Detroit on the end.
Very nice. I mean, it fits.
If I move, it's going to be a real problem.
Yeah. Well, but I feel like you will always take Detroit with you. How can you move? I mean, look at this.
Yeah. Oh, you mean because of all the junk and garbage I'd have to move? Yes. I mean, I'd probably abandon all of it. I'd just leave it here and then vanish one day. Nobody would ever hear from me again. Until they saw Scott Hocking, New Jersey. Like, who is that guy in New Jersey?
What would you do in New Jersey?
Did you tell me? What would I do in New Jersey?
To accumulate more stuff.
There's a guy you can't see from New Jersey over here, so... Anyway.
Speaking of, is that a wasp? Is that a wasp's nest? It looks like one.
There's one right there behind you.
That's a wasp's nest, and then that.
No, that's a wasp nest right there.
That.
Yeah.
That is. Is that a real one?
Yes, that's a real one on a tree. Yeah. Off screen.
You can't say. How did you get that? Like.
They were dead. They had abandoned that nest. It was the middle of winter, and then I clipped the branch off.
That's why, because I was thinking those straw things look like waspy things.
That's really great because those are straws. It's like one of those things I love, like when a man-made material becomes so decayed that it becomes organic and hard to decipher what it was.
Yeah.
So I love the straws that were burned and turned into looking like some kind of insect.
They do. They totally look like the inside of a wasp's nest.
Yeah.
And it was so much that I was staring and actually missed the real wasp's nest off camera that you can't see, friends.
But I love that you thought that's what it was, because I had them displayed in an exhibition years ago.
Yeah.
And I played with the idea of how will archaeologists interpret our artifacts, which is essentially what this work is about, and a lot of my old work is about. How will we be perceived through our relics and artifacts? And so I made this pseudo-archaeological dig exhibition, and I put those on the wall, and they were labeled as, like, insect nests or something.
Like I win the prize.
First congratulations.
Prize. Thank you. And then there's, of course, the catacomb skull collection.
Yeah, those are human skulls from the people I've killed.
Well, the man off camera may or may not have a human skull in his trunk.
Oh, wow. This is getting really weird really quickly. What direction is this going?
We're here to talk about Venus Retrograde.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
Appropriately.
So, which is the reason that neither of us have gotten haircuts.
Yeah, and I need one really bad. I shouldn't have hair this long for what my hair does. But
I think it looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just don't,
Just don't do this.
Just don't shave it off.
Thanks. Very Brian Wilson? Oh, God. I'm going crazy, aren't I?
Where's the sand?
Where's the sand? And it's off camera. They can't see that it's here. Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, it's sand. So, you were posting some photos and talking about a project you were working on and how it harkens back to 2015, and my eyes and ears and the astrologer in me perked up and got really excited because we are in Venus retrograde, and 2015 is a big year for this Venus retrograde because the last time Venus retrograded in Leo which is where it is now, was 2015. So there's this really important moment happening, right, where we're sort of like ending an 8-year chapter and beginning one. Yeah. So I thought it would be fun to actually get you on IG Live and talk a little bit about what that project was, where you were then, what chapter is closing, what's opening, and maybe sharing some stories in between.
Yeah, to me there's something very strange happening without thinking about any of that.
Yeah.
I was initially struck with what the fuck is happening where so many things from 8 years ago, 2015, are somehow being revisited and coming up in a way that it was peculiar, and then you reached out and I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense because it's still happening. Like just last night I went to a party and the person who was having that party 8 years ago, he and I were at one of the most amazing parties I've ever been to my life in northern France. It was us and all these Brazilians. And we went through the streets. Our faces were covered in gold glitter, and it was like an all-night crazy party with Brazilians with that motherfucker. And last night he had a giant, huge, amazing party, and I was like, "What is all these throwbacks to 8 years ago, not 5 years ago, not 2 years ago, 8 years ago.
Is that, does that person, does their name begin with an O?
Yes.
Okay. I know the person. So it's fascinating, too, to think in 8 years, both of you have had major changes in your careers.
For
and
sure.
I know they just launched a really big project.
Right.
You have had a really big year about, you've had a museum exhibition.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? I think I just fucked it up. Exhibition?
That's perfect.
Okay, good. I did it right.
Museum exhibition.
Yeah. And you've had a lot of really big international projects. You were just in Bosnia. So, it's fascinating to think that you're both kind of re-meeting up
Exactly.
in this really important moment in
Exactly.
your lives.
And we don't hang out. Like, we're not, like, going out all the time. But yeah, so in 2015...
Yes.
I had a really big career year. I had a big installation that an Atlanta-based curator team called Dashboard created at a building in Detroit called the Pickle Factory.
Okay.
I made this crazy big installation in there. Narcissus Incorporated, I called it. I love that piece. And then throughout the summer, I built this crazy giant site-specific sculpture out of an abandoned barn, or decaying barn, in the Thumb of Michigan in Port Austin. That was my buddy Jim Boyle started the 53 North project. I was the second project. Stephen Drodakoy did their hygienic dress sleeve one first, and then Katie Newell did her barn after me. Yeah. But 2015, I spent 3 months in the Thumb building that thing.
In the summer?
The summer,
that's when Venus Retrograde,
yeah,
right?
the summer for 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 3, kind of, but I came back in October and like finally buttoned it up.
Yeah.
But then I went, in end of August, I went to France, northern France, and did this crazy giant installation in the city of Lille for this big exhibition. A lot of Detroit artists were there for that.
What's the name of it? Is the
well, they called it Renaissance. It was like the Lille Triannual, and Lille 3000 was one of the things. But they do it pretty consistently. They have these big shows. But that show had an art exhibition with Detroit artists from Seoul, Korea, artists from Rio, which is the Brazilian party we were at, and artists from Eindhoven, artists from some other fucking place I can't remember. But it was like just this massive citywide exhibition. I was there for a month, and at the end I went to Paris. Like, the career part of 2015 was kind of stunning. But my personal life in 2015 was my stepfather died, kind of a suicide. Suzanne Hilberry was dying of cancer, and then Suzanne Hilberry died. She was like family to me and really a mentor, a huge part of my life. I had a kind of a devastating breakup where I was heartbroken from the breakup, and my arms went numb. Like, at one point I had been working on the barn project so long, and then Suzanne died. Well, I broke up, and then Suzanne died, and then my arms, I couldn't feel my arms. And I was like, it was such a weird, intense year of highs and lows. Yeah. And a lot of those things that I just laid out have in some way in this year, or recently, I've been revisiting them in a way that's a bit like, how is this reappearing? This thing that was important 8 years ago is suddenly reinvigorated. Connections, people, memories are being like brought back up in ways that are really intriguing and confusing. And I would love to just say, well, this makes a lot of fucking sense. That it's the Venus retrograde kind of showing me these things again.
Yeah, I think it does, but I think we have to step up further. We are going to slowly inch towards
it. Right now is the first step?
Yeah, that's not the first step.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. There we go. We can get people interested.
We're standing, by the way. We're not sitting down. That was just how we walk. Should I get closer? Am I good?
Oh, I think Patrick Hill. Is that Fresno? This is someone I knew.
Pat Hill? Hey, Pat.
I don't know. Oh, there are Amadeo's here. Hello.
If it's not Pat, I mean, if anybody's named Pat. Hey.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Or
Hill. If anyone's named Hill.
Hill, please join.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting when I think about Venus retrograde, right? Or the Venus cycles. I think there's this idea of like it's very much related to like the 7-year sort of Saturn itch, right? Because 7 is the Saturn year, and then 8 is the Venus year, and I think like maybe there's this idea that in like the 7th year we get like this breaking point, but in the 8th year it's like in the 8th. I mean, they don't always go concurrently, but just kind of think of this idea that maybe there's something about. I think Venus retrogrades are all about like ending something to begin again, right? And so. They've been thinking, right, this idea that you, in 2015, during the retrograde were like creating this barn, and you literally had to go back to fix it, right? And I'm wondering if that's like a metaphor for things of like, I'm wondering what things are coming into your life to like need readdressing. Like, I'm curious to know. Or closure.
I'm thinking a lot of them are closure related. Like, I do feel like there's, even going back up and working. So I went back and worked on the barn. I ended up spending 2 weeks up there. I didn't plan on being up there 2 weeks. But it really felt like I had gone through a time warp, and I was back into 2008. Like, the farmers who I hadn't seen in 8 years would drive by and then come up and talk my ear off like no time had passed. And there was just a lot of this feeling of, I remember being back. I remember all the things I was going through when I was here working on it.
You know, it's interesting sometimes, like, revisiting a place 8 years later. It's almost as if we're revisiting our former selves in that place. And I'm wondering if there was also this, like, this kind of, like, this spatial memory of, like, wow, like, the last time I was here, I was feeling like this was going on, and it's just this sort of very, like, physical reminder of who you are now and where you've come. And
of the time that's passed and what's changed, and how I had a better tan and was in really good shape then. But yeah, like, there were lots of things like that for sure. I think it's for me, there's been a couple things that feel like, this is a closure thing. This is the ending of a chapter. There's a new beginning on the horizon. And last year was a really, really amazing year. And I think that the way life works sometimes, like, I had such a good year last year that this year has felt like, I need to even out a bit. Like, there's a little bit of a balance happening this year where, I wouldn't say it's been a bad year, but it definitely feels like it has felt a little off, like a little like, I'm not quite in tune or something. Something's weird, and now I'm starting to feel like, it's that feeling of being like, you're revisiting the past in some way that makes you feel like you're not quite in the present. Like, normally I feel like I'm really in the present. So I might be in a cycle this year where I'm revisiting the past a bunch, and it probably is because I have to work through some things and conclude them.
Well,
move on.
I forget, what's your rising again? You're
so I'm a Pisces sun, I'm a Aquarius rising, and a Sagittarius moon, and my chart is heavy, like Pisces, Aquarius, Sagittarius. I have heavy. I think I have 4 in Sagittarius, but I'm like, if you look at my chart, it's
okay. You're Aquarius rising, so then Leo is your 7th house, which is interesting, thinking about the relationship component of thinking about that breakup and thinking about old friends and things like that, and like kind of like clearing that space, and even thinking about like people you're working with, and I'm wondering like new projects you want to start, things like that.
I mean, that I have a couple projects. I mean, one of them is definitely I'm revisiting. I'm going to do a project where I'm completing, in my mind, I'm completing a project where I used a bunch of fiberglass figures and fiberglass creatures from abandoned tourist traps. And I first started doing that. I first started acquiring those around 2011, 2012. And the person who helped me originally get them, she runs a gallery at Central Michigan University, and at that opening we're basically going to start installing on August 15th, around there. So in 2 weeks we're going to start installing, and it'll open in September, but we're going to do what I consider to be the final iteration of that project. So again, it's concluding from us first unearthing all these things together, and now we're working together at the conclusion, and I'm going to put those figures, I'm going to put that whole installation somewhere in the wilds, rogue style, and just abandon it. I'm going to bury them, for sure.
It's interesting.
So revisiting that relationship is happening, for sure.
And I love this idea that you're finalizing that project, and it feels like in some ways, I don't know, like, do you think you'll have to go back to the barn in 8 years? What's that look like? Is that 8 years?
I have been thinking, like, I wonder if this is an 8-year cycle thing. Like, what's happening I've made a lot of jokes about the barn in 8 years, because it didn't really need to be, like, it wasn't like it was in trouble. It didn't need to be repaired. But for 8 years, this is kind of such a great thing to talk about astrologically. But 8 years ago, when I first did the drawing for the barn, I did a drawing of this, like, vagina-shaped barn, and at the bottom of it, there's a hill of earth. So it's like, hill of earth, vagina shape. They couldn't get me dirt. because of some long-standing feud between the family that has a monopoly on dirt up there, the family that basically owns all the sand and dirt, and the farmers or somebody, they were butting heads for years, so we couldn't get dirt. And for 8 years they've been like, we think we have a lead on dirt. And finally this year they were like, we got the dirt. It got dumped. So there's like an astro dirt cycle happening for me.
Wow.
And then I went up there and moved the sand, moved the garbage. There's a rubble. Farmers dumped like tires and all their trash there. So I just put that all first, and then I piled sand, and then I piled the dirt, and I literally I did like a burial mound under the barn. I buried the 8-year dirt feud. I squashed the beef.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like next time you can go back ritualistically.
I'm going to dig it up.
Really dig
it up. That's what I was thinking. 8 years later, I'm going to pull it all back out. Just like
excavate it, put it in boxes.
Excavate the dirt, do a dirt install somewhere at maybe another museum. 8 years later, I'll have another retrospective. I'll be like senior citizen by then, right? I don't know.
I don't.
What year does that start?
So. Yeah, when is
what
ARP?
Year does that start?
Is it in your 50s where you could be ARP? Remember, or is it 60?
I think it's 50s now.
Wow.
I think it's 50s now.
Which is strange because I think people are like way more vital. They have more vitality in their 50s.
You would think that it would go
but
higher, right? Like
yeah.
You're not senior till you're 70 or something.
Exactly, but I think maybe people really want the ARP benefits.
Yeah.
So they're.
I know I do.
Discounts.
Yeah, discounts. Get this coffee for like $2 less.
No, I don't think they do those lattes.
Oh, shit.
They have to serve coffee shops.
Well, it's not worth it. I give up. Let's try and stay on track here.
It's interesting. Okay, it's all interesting, but I'm trying to think.
I do think I'm going to go back. I do.
Yeah.
There were a lot of jokes about the 8-year cycle of the barn. Nobody I was talking to was going like, "Oh, Venus retrograde." No, we were just joking about the fact that it's been 8 years. And I went up there. I chainsawed down weed trees that grew really tall in those 8 years and kind of got in the way. I completely earth moved to the point where like everything has to grow back now. It's just dirt everywhere. It used to be really overgrown. I did do a little bit of repairing with like wood and stuff. I don't know. It really did feel like I might have 8-year cycles with the barn.
You did the nature reset. Like you did.
I did.
Venus's work for her.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting thinking too. Okay, that was my question or my point. Is that like you've had such, when I think of the Venus retrograde, right? I think or any retrograde, but yeah, I think of these sort of moments where it's okay just like to be still and reflect and not necessarily start new things.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's nice, right? To like force ourselves to see how our hair grows.
Yeah.
Literally. And I'm wondering, like, if maybe part of this sort of weird feeling is I feel like you've been going for so hard.
Yeah.
Is it there a little bit of now you're like having to like actually comprehend and like sit with like all of these big things that have happened? Like, have you had that space before that to really contemplate really big things?
That goes in cycles for me too.
Yeah.
There's years that are just intense, and then there's years like this year has definitely been one where I'm soaking it in and thinking about things and reflecting on it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the project I'm about to install is really like, I mean, we're about to go Mercury Retrograde too.
Yeah, it's
like
a real fun
tomorrow maybe or something. I feel like
soon, yeah.
I think it might be tomorrow, but it's very soon, and I feel like I have gut feelings about Mercury retrogrades now, where I used to be a bit terrified by them, and I was cautious to do certain things, and I still do annoying for other people things, like I will not sign a contract during Mercury retrograde, and people will be like, "Are you fucking kidding me, Scott? Like, we can't wait 3 weeks."
Yes,
but
you can.
I will do it. I will do that. But what I was going to say is that I feel like I have a sense for them, and I sometimes can feel like this one isn't so much about problems as much as it's about you're going to revisit some things from the past. And that's kind of how I feel like this upcoming one is going to be. So the combo of the Venus and the Mercury retrograde, I feel like there's a lot of past revisitations, literally working with a project that's from the past.
Yeah.
With the person who helped me start that project in the past, but also just I'm not fearing it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think when you get a little bit older, they even say like Saturn, it teaches you hard lessons when you're young, but by the time you're old and wise, it's not like you're getting taught hard lessons anymore as much as you're getting wisdom.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like ready for whatever it's going to throw at you, and you're gaining wisdom, and I think of that. I don't want to fucking curse myself here, but I do feel like this is just whatever happens, I'm kind of rolling with it, and I'm excited to revisit all these things and see where it goes.
See, I like Mercury retrogrades because I think it's this idea that, like, I think of it as like the secret shopper of the zodiac. So like a couple times a year, Mercury is like checks in and is like, cool, are you doing things right? Right. And you're like,
if you're not,
it's like, I'm going to show you so you can get better. Right. Like, it's like, oh, my car is stalled or whatever because I never put oil in it. Maybe that's like a lesson. And I also think it's fun to be like, you know what?
That's not a real story, is it?
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah.
You know, but it's kind of fun to have these moments where, like, guess what? I'm not going to sign contracts. I'm not going to do heavy work, right? It's kind of like we're all kind of forced on some sort of like into like sort of like vacation.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just got an oil change yesterday.
Good for you.
I needed it, but I was definitely like, I'm doing this before the retrograde. I mean, I think it's not so hard to avoid stuff like that. Like, don't buy a new computer. Don't get your car repaired. Don't do things where there could be like a mechanical error. And what is the harm in paying more attention to your communication during a time when you could potentially have miscommunications? Yeah. All that does is make you more cognizant of communicating.
That carries over to the rest of the year. You become better.
Exactly. It's like practice.
Yes.
And we're doing a great job of it right now.
I think so. Should we edge closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
How long does this go for?
Hello for, I don't know, till we get bored.
Oh, look at this. I look really good in this light.
You do. It's
this ring light's really
ring
bringing
light.
out my natural olive skin. No, it looks really red. I look like sunburned.
No,
I look good.
Yeah,
okay.
It looks.
Thanks.
Maybe salmon?
Salmon? Oh my god. Wow. Yep. That's a part of Venus Retrograde. Yeah, the salmon cycle I'm in. I'm a Pisces, so this makes sense.
Because this is what degrees your sun? I can't remember.
I don't know. We're gonna have to look at my chart or something.
Are you earlier end?
I'm like
middle?
Perfectly right there. I'm like
in the middle.
Like when you look at my chart, like my sun is right in the middle of the Pisces. I'm March 4th.
Okay, yeah. That's fascinating.
Very balanced.
You're gonna get the Sun Saturn, that's a whole. We'll have a reading.
Oh, sweet Jesus! We're gonna have to have another one of these when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What else?
Yeah. I don't know. How do you plan on cutting your hair? It's a good.
I have a great hair salon. What are they?
Yeah, salon.
What do they call?
Unless you go to the barber.
No, what? But I don't think she calls herself a barber. Stylist. Yes, the conversation.
That's where I go.
Conversation.
The conversation. Hamtramck.
Yeah.
I ran into Henna.
Alethea.
I know Henna. I know them both.
Oh.
But I ran into Henna this morning.
Well, they're both great. This is really just a big ad for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Just look at us.
I'm gonna like do this so I can like get there, but I'm a little behind you. And I can just.
Oh, that's better. Our heads are more like the same size,
yeah.
So people can see that I don't have such a huge head.
Hello to everyone who joined. Ooh, how does a stressed out Virgo with Venus in Virgo survive this fucking month? Hey, Scott, I'll let you answer that one.
Take a chill pill? No, I don't know. I'm not sure that in life. I feel like you just kind of know everything's gonna end. You know it's definitely not gonna last forever. You just survive it because you know it's not gonna last forever.
Make friends with death. I think that's the answer.
Oh, that is a great.
That's the answer for everything.
It. Yes, like don't be afraid of death. It's all part of the cycle. There's endings all the time. I subscribe to the card book readings, and I have a lot of fucking 9s this year. Oh my god! After last year, I got a lot of 9s this year. I got 9s in everything. It's like, oh, let me throw another 9 in there. One of my entire year, long year cards is a 9.
And how are you feeling about the 9s?
How
do you interpret the 9s?
I just interpret them as endings, and I interpret endings as new beginnings. I interpret it as like endings are. If you hold on to them, if you're like don't let go, like in any relationship and anything in life, if you fight the ending, then it's gonna make it worse.
You know, that's what they say when you're like on a psychedelic or something, right? Like if you're dying, you think you're dying, just let yourself die.
Yeah.
Which also works for panic attacks, I've learned.
Oh.
You're having a panic attack, you think you're dying, just be like, it's my time to go.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna sit here with it, ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, the panicky thing, actually, the make friends with death thing isn't completely cheeky.
No, I didn't think of it as cheeky at all. I think that that's like one of those things in life that Western culture has a hard time with, is paying attention to how we're a part of the natural cycle. Everything around you dies and is reborn every year. Nature shows you this cycle, and we are definitely a part of that cycle. And I think that there's like a tendency in our culture to not want to think about that, not want to talk about that. We're different, we're removed, and I think it's really healthy to daily think about morbid thoughts. My mom used to say when I was a kid I had a morbid sense of humor, and I was like, yeah, that's because I think this is all kind of a cosmic joke, and you should not be afraid of living and dying. You should find, I don't know, it's the divine comedy, you know, like life is kind of hilarious and great and sad and terrible all at the same time, and that's what makes it fun.
Well, it's interesting because you've made your kind of, in a sense, right, you've created an entire career around death, right? And death in a certain sense.
Yeah.
You collect these sort of relics that are aging.
Yeah. Decay, to me, that was a huge part of the beginning of working in abandoned buildings for me, is that my whole life I'd been told how negative those things were. It was sad to see decay and abandonment because of what it used to be, and look what's happened. And to me, that was people being afraid of reminders of mortality.
Yeah.
That when buildings decay, it's a reminder to us that nothing we do lasts, that everything is temporal, that nature always takes things apart, and we're a part of that, and people don't like to be reminded of that, in my mind. So to me, a huge part of working in those spaces was to say, there's beauty in this transition. This is important to look at this the same way we look. I was just at the Book Tower, which was completely renovated and is beautiful, and that's fucking great. Like, I love being in the Book Tower now that it's all renovated, but I also liked it when it was completely decaying and the rooms were filled with mold, and like, that is just a part of the cycle, and I think it's important to look at all the parts and not deny any of them, and find beauty in all of them, and find, balance through that. Balance. Yeah.
Ooh, hello. I like someone who just said ooh.
Someone just said ooh, nice.
Nice.
And someone wrote nice after the ooh.
Ooh, I think it's the same person. Hi.
That makes sense, because we both said ooh, nice. We're kind of mirroring each other, I think.
Yeah. So, okay, the biggest ways, how is Scott 2023, I had to remember what year we're in, different from Scott?
I thought you were saying I was
2015.
23 years old. That would have been cooler, but how is it different than 8 years ago?
Yeah, like how have you changed? Who do you think, like...
Gray part in my beard, all gray.
Has that happened in the last 8?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the photos of me 8 years ago, I did not have a gray beard. That's a huge part. I don't know. I mean, I do feel like I've grown a bit as a person. I think every year, I mean, I'm just the kind of person who wants to keep learning till I die. So every year, every project, when someone asked a minute ago about, like, how do you get through the stresses of what they're going through, like, to me, my whole career is me trying to navigate through problems. Yeah. And as an artist, I think that's something you have to become really fucking good at, is navigating through all the obstacles that could be surviving, daily issues of money, doing any kind of project or installation. There's always going to be problems to navigate around. Oh, this changed, this person's an asshole, this thing broke, oh, you injured yourself. Like, there's always things to navigate around. And to me, it's just it's like the microcosm, macrocosm, like, that's life. Life is still, for me, every year, it's, all right, how am I going to get through this year? What's going to be the way to navigate through the new obstacles? So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say 8 years ago and now, because for me, it's so much like present. But, yeah, it's definitely, there's been some things that have made me reflect. Like, there's literally people who were a big part of my life 8 years ago who I feel like have reappeared in a way where I'm like, oh shit, that person, this person. Yeah, it's very fascinating, and I don't know, I'm excited. I've got an 8 on my arm to talk about there. Got an 8 right there.
What is the 8 now? We were
8's
talking about
infinity.
9s.
8's infinity.
The infinity. Okay, so the infinity.
This is every 11 years I get the next tattoo, and then I'm supposed to die at 88, according to a psychic I went to when I was 18.
I'm happy she didn't tell you, like, 53. That would...
She did say, you're going to have an average life, and you're going to die at 88.
Ouch.
But no, I'm numerologically, I'm a number 11.
Okay.
And I like number 22, and 33 is a very special, powerful number.
Yeah.
So a third of the whole.
It's a Jesus
you know?
year. It's the 10th.
Jesus year.
Well,
It's
do you remember
like,
33 for you?
yeah, 33. I got this tattoo.
What else is happening?
Shit. Don't make me think back. I'm hungover. I told you that. It's hard to think back that far. But no, like I decided to give myself 11-year deadlines.
Yeah.
Literally a deadline right here. But deadlines, like, sometimes it's nice to have these kinds of cycles so you can break things down and think about them that way. 8 years, 11 years.
8 months.
I'm just looking. Who knows who I'm looking at? How many months?
8.
8 months.
Yeah. But, okay, so is there you're ending some things, you're finishing this, you're about to have this it's not a retrospective, but you're having this final iteration of this project this year, right? At Michigan
Central Michigan University has a very beautiful gallery in their library that's in Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
And I'll probably start installing in 2 weeks.
And that's kind of, so there's things that are closing out, but like, is there anything that you really want to do in the next 8 years? You're like, that's like, what is it? I'm sure it's to name one of them.
I mean, so many things. I don't know, like see the pyramids. I want to do everything.
I hate bucket lists.
I don't really have a bucket list, but no, like
pyramids.
I was just talking to someone the other day, and I was like, there's so many things that I want to travel to every country on Earth. Like, so I went to Bosnia for 2 weeks. That was not on a list. I didn't have Bosnia on my list of like places I need to go to before I die. But I met this beautiful curator here. He did a Fulbright. He came to Detroit in 2019, and he's just awesome. And he said, we need to bring you to Bosnia. You need to do a project in Bosnia. And they did. They brought me there. I was there for 2 weeks, and now I'm
2019. That's related to this Venus section.
That's when I did the boat installation with all the hanging boats.
Okay, yeah.
So that's when we met. Oh, really? That's interesting.
That was when she had her. I think that was the Kazemi with the sun when she was direct, right? And so there's these sort of interesting tie-in dates along
the way.
That's great. So.
Yeah,
anyway,
so that's great because like we met then, but it's taken this long to get me there.
Yeah.
COVID was a big stopping point for that. But he was right. Like I got there and now I love Bosnia. Now I can't wait to go back. I want to come up with a great idea and make a permanent piece and be there for, I don't know, I would like to be there for a month, to be honest, like to try and make the piece but also just spend time there. So that's very quick future goals. I want to figure that out. I want to have a good show at Central Michigan. I'm about to do a residency at Prairie Ronde Artist Residency Program. I just got that. Oh, I shouldn't be announcing that. Whoops. Just everyone keep that to yourselves. But I'm excited for very upcoming things. But, I mean, what do I want? I want to keep making money. I want to survive. I want to be able to be an artist and, like, keep living this way and maybe buy a building. Like, I'd like to buy a building at some point.
Yeah, 'cause
I bought a car. That was a huge thing for me to buy a car. So now I'm like, I need to get a fucking building. But I don't know.
Where do people buy buildings these days anymore in Detroit? Like,
probably not in Detroit.
Yeah.
It would probably not be Detroit. I don't know.
Where would it be?
Toledo. You heard it first. Toledo's going to be hot shit.
Scott, Hocking, Columbus, Cleveland. Where? We have to get in the city.
Toledo. Scott Hocking, Toledo. Yeah. No, I mean, Toledo has a lot of potential. I don't mean to make this for real, but like Toledo feels to me.
Real estate speculators are going to watch this because
It
they're going to see your
feels to
face.
me like Detroit 20 years ago. It feels like there's beautiful buildings. It's right on I-80. Like it's like across. It's going to happen. It's
you talk about this.
Shit.
The man off the camera, his name is Valère, painter, but you talk about the Ohio often.
Yeah, Toledo is gonna. I'm predicting it that Toledo's gonna be.
It's on record.
A big deal. I know. I said a lot of things I shouldn't have said. They're on record now. I wasn't supposed to talk about that artist residency yet.
We didn't say it.
Hopefully they'll announce it any second now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. I'd love to have just some consistency financially, because my whole life has been really unpredictable in that way. Anybody who decides to be an artist, if you don't get a job like teaching or something where you have some kind of steady income.
Advertising.
Something, yeah. Quicken loans.
Yeah.
Graphics, right. Or, I mean, I did art handling jobs. We were talking about that. I did art handling jobs for really 17 years. Like, I hung work, I delivered work, I drove to New York City with a box truck for well over a decade. I did a lot of jobs, butcher, baker, candlestick maker style, over many years. But for the last 6 years, I have been not doing anything basically except my art.
It's amazing.
I'm, again, trying not to jinx myself, but like, that would be really, really great to just keep being an artist and surviving off of that somehow. And also able to do things like go to the doctor and, you know, normal human things would be nice. But, yeah, those are my future plans. Don't die yet.
Don't know yet.
It's really great to have this because I'm pretty sure I won't die until I'm 88.
Yeah.
So I can kind of do whatever I want because
Takes the pressure off.
it takes a lot of pressure off. I do a lot of dumb things because I'm like, oh, well, I've got a lot more years.
What is that one, by the way? This is the last.
This is a new one. This is a tattoo by Anavan Skop. I always say Anavan Shop, but she corrected me. It's Skop.
Scop.
If
Okay.
she's looking at this. But it's
Is it like
Sisyphus.
Oh, it is Sisyphus. I got that. Did you see?
I'm trying to get it so they can see it. And
Yeah.
he's pushing one of my sewer balls up the hill because I had a big year where that sewer ball got installed in front of Huntington Place, what used to be Cobo Hall. I call it my Cobo ball. My big blue ball. My blue ball. Yeah, so that's Sisyphus pushing the sphere up. And she's great. She is an amazing painter. And now she's doing tattoos. And now that I have a friend who does really great tattoos, I just want to get like 20 million
Where's
tattoos.
she located?
She tattoos out of her place in Morningside neighborhood.
Oh, she's in Detroit.
Yep.
That's great.
There's a lot of shout outs for this. I'm going to have to tag everybody somehow.
Yeah. Okay. This has been wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for
been great.
inviting me into your place.
Does
Everyone.
anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Anyone have any questions?
OMG, is that
OMG.
a question? No.
Ooh, is that Bagel Girl? Someone called Bagel Girl joined? That's so cool.
Right at the end.
Hello, Mortal and Wild, who I love. Dear friend of mine who lives in England, is an amazing.
Ah, cool.
Mortal and Wild is just a shout out. Is one of the most amazing astrologers ever. But like, she's like really shy, and I can't get her to IG live with me. Like, her brace just. Anyway, just.
This
brilliant.
might be the way to coax her to do it now because
Yeah.
we're both saying you're really great,
Yeah,
Mortal and Wild, and you should do it.
it's easy. Okay, I'll go turn this thing off.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, wait.
What?
How do I embrace death when I feared it so long? That's a final question. We were about to kill.
That was hilarious how like we almost killed this.
Yeah.
This almost died, and then we got that question. I think that you just have to, when you have fears, you just have to keep working on walking towards them. You have to just do that. I mean, we're not talking about literal death. You're not walking off a bridge or off the side of a building. But fears are often things that I think we need to work on. Like if you're, shit, I get afraid when I have to be social. Like, this is really fun for me. But when I have to go out to an art opening, my own art opening, I can get anxiety about how I have to talk to so many people and I have to be on. And that can be like almost crippling by itself, and I just fucking do it anyway. And then once you're doing it, you're in it, that fear is gone. You just kind of have to keep moving. So the one thing about death that is really great is that you can't stop it. You're going to keep moving towards it no matter what. You can't stop it. So, I don't know. When you think of it that way, like, why not embrace it? Because there's no getting around it.
Yeah.
Myth of Sisyphus.
Say again?
Myth of Sisyphus.
The myth of Sisyphus. Oh my God. No matter what you do, you're going to push that boulder up and it's going to roll down again.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think artists have an advantage though, because when you finish a project and then you finish a project
Sure.
and then you finish a project, you
Yeah.
have to let go every time.
So for me, that's why I relate so much with the myth of Sisyphus, is because it's a classic mythology story that talks about how life is just these cycles of beginnings and endings, and it never stops. But as an artist, I've created a career out of doing projects that are that. I do this like tremendous amount of physical work. Sometimes I injure myself, sometimes I'm exhausted, and then they end, and what do? I do it fucking again. It just never ends, and I've decided, well, that's what it really is practice. Like making an art practice, again, like I said about navigating around obstacles, making your art practice be training for how life is.
The objects almost become secondary at that point.
Well, it's the process for sure. Like these are artifacts of a process. The process is way more important than the artifact to me. I love that people want the object and the artifact, and that gives me money and I can live. But for me, the process is like the meditation. It's the spiritual growth. I'm learning. I'm going deep internally, channeling things. But it's really meditative, and it creates an artifact. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's That's a huge reason why I'm going to keep doing it till I die, for sure.
There are no parents, no other adults, no one to interfere with the fun.